I had been waiting almost 3 years to get the results of Vic's appeals decision, and the day it finally comes out was my first day traveling around in India a few weeks ago, so I didn't actually get to read the documents until just the past few days. While I was in India, I did listen to Nick Rekieta's streams about this topic, but he did mention in his video that there were a dissent and a concurrence, which basically means there was some sort of disagreement between the judges, but he didn't actually cover these documents, so I wanted to read those for myself. Also, yeah, I thought there would be more to it, but there really isn't. This case was just simply dismissed for procedural reasons. To make a long story short, Ty Beard, who was Vic's attorney, he played things way too close to the deadline for whatever reason, and he got burned. There were a few issues here. First of all, there was the notarization issue, which I think I talked about in my previous video from like 3 years ago, but that's really bad. He tried to notarize documents from like halfway across the country from where Vic was when he supposedly signed it. So that was obviously found to be an improper notarization, and he had to retract that, try to replace that with a new document, which was then not considered because it was considered to be filed too late. Then there were other documents as well that were considered to sort of try to circumvent the deadline because they weren't submitted before the agreed upon deadline. They were submitted with amended documents afterwards, and the court said, yeah, this is really transparent. You failed to meet the deadline. You tried to submit things late. We're not going to consider this evidence. And I don't really deal with this sort of issue in my practice, so I can't say whether this is really the right opinion, but I think the appeals court makes a lot of sense here. And when Ty went on Nick's stream to argue this issue, he was getting really technical. He was saying things like, oh, well, the deadline applied to the complaint, but it didn't apply to the amended petitions and blah, blah, blah. But when in doubt, I tend to ignore the more technical side and just try to follow what feels like common sense to me. And I think the appeals court was more so on the side of common sense here. Now, obviously, lawyers are supposed to do the exact opposite. We're supposed to argue intricacies and technicalities, but I think the appeals court is probably right here, and I don't think there's any serious way to fight it. Okay, so Ty Beard here, for whatever reason, his law firm just played things way too close to the deadline, and I don't think we'll ever know. I think the only people who will ever know are Ty, his firm, and perhaps Vic Mignogna himself, but you hate to see a case be dismissed for procedural reasons because the lawyer screwed up especially, and that's just life sometimes. Ty did bad, and he should feel bad. I guess if he did anything right, is that he did collect a lot of evidence in the first place, even though it wasn't all considered, and also if you just look at the evidence that was collected but not necessarily considered by the judge, I guess the worst thing you can say that's substantiated by the record is that Vic, perhaps, if you believe this, grabbed some women by the hair, whispered something sexual into their ears, and then those women later forgot exactly what he said. But obviously, if this actually happened, it was highly inappropriate, but it is far and away better than what he's been accused of, which is like rape, pedophilia, other forms of sexual assault, groping minors. Like, I guess you can consider it a victory to say, well, according to what the judge considered, grabbing a woman's hair and whispering into her ear is the worst thing he actually may have done. And personally, I don't believe it. I think that I was very neutral when this case first came out, and I started leaning towards Vic as all this evidence came in, and it looked like a lot of the allegations against him were completely unsubstantiated. But this is just a court of public opinion now. The legal process is probably over, and, well, the case ends not with a bang, but with a whimper.